start with a word of prayer. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and legislative assemblies for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Good afternoon, honorable members. I welcome you for this afternoon sitting. Feel very much welcome and fully participate to our afternoon work. We can start off, clerk.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next order.
Order number 4, petitions.
Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion, approval of report on implementation status of various House resolutions.
May I invite Honorable Dominic Maitha, Chairperson, Implementation Committee, to come forward and take us through the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 198, I wish to move the motion that this Assembly adopts the report of the Committee on Implementation on the implementation status of Assembly resolutions by the County Executive as laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 14th May 2024. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to call Honorable Lloyd to second my motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Lloyd. Thank you, Honorable Lloyd. At this point, I now propose the question that this Assembly adopts the report of the Committee on Implementation on the implementation status of Assembly resolutions by the County Executive as laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 14th May 2024. Before I call the mover to come and take us, before I call the members to debate this motion, I would like to call the mover to come and give us highlights of the report. Welcome, Honorable Mike.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an elaborate report, but I will try to be as fast as possible so that we can see, members can be in concurrence with me from where we have started. The Select Committee on Implementation is mandated to scrutinize resolutions of the Assembly, including adopted committee reports, petitions, and the undertakings given by the County Executive, and examine whether such decisions and undertakings have been implemented within the 60 days period as provided for in the standing orders, and whether such implementation has taken place within the minimum time necessary. Madam Speaker, in line with its mandate, the Select Committee on Implementation wrote to various departments on different dates seeking the implementation status of various House resolutions. This is pursuant to Standing Order number 188, Sub-Order 2, which provides that the committee shall scrutinize the resolutions of the House, including adopted committee reports, petitions, and the undertakings given by the County Executive Committee, and examine whether or not such decisions and undertakings have been implemented, and where implemented, the extent to which they have been implemented, and whether such implementation has taken place within the minimum time necessary, and whether or not legislation passed by the House has been operationalized, and where operationalized, the extent to which the operationalization has taken place within the minimum time necessary. Madam Speaker, the committee during its various sittings, scrutinized the written submissions received from the county executive, and it also held meetings with some of the executive committee members and chief officers in order to seek clarification and deliberate further on the submissions provided. Madam Speaker, the records of evidence submitted to the committee from the basis of the committee's report on the implementation status as outlined in the report. In its deliberations, the committee observed that lack of legal frameworks to guide government policies affects efficient implementation and operations of such policies and other subsidiary legislation. Also, Madam Speaker, it was noted that the inadequate budgetary allocation hinder implementation of most House resolutions. Further, it was noted that the late and incomplete responses by the county executive usually lead to back and forth communication with the committee, thus delaying committees reporting time to the House. The committee, after deliberations, recommends that the county executive should enhance its scrutiny of laws, resolutions, and motions to ensure that resolutions passed are implementable. 2, the House and by extension committees should ensure all resolutions passed are specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic, that is smart and town-bound, to ensure that they are implemented and for effective follow-up of the same. The committee registers its appreciation to the, I will skip that, Madam Speaker, and then proceed straight to the main report. Mandate of the committee. The Select Committee on Implementation is established and pursuant to Standing Order number 188 of the County Assembly Standing Orders. The committee scrutinizes the resolutions of the House, including adopted, that one I had already read, and the composition of the committee is as enlisted in 1.2, as shared on the Bob Maida and the rest. I will read Chairperson, Honorable Paul Muli, Vice Chair, Honorable Antilo, Member, Honorable Justice Mutuku, Member, Honorable Lloyd Mutua, Member, Honorable Catherine Chair, Member, Honorable Grace Bahati, Member, Honorable Mercy Jagi, Member, Honorable Vincent Mutia, Member, Honorable Douglas Musyoka, Member, Honorable Felix Ngui, Member, Honorable Boniface Maeke, Member, and Honorable Julius Munyoke. The committee commenced to appraise itself on the implementation status of House resolutions pursuant to Standing Order number 188 sub-order 2, which requires the committee to scrutinize resolutions of the House, including adopted committee reports, petitions, and the undertakings given by the county executive. The committee, that one I wrote about report and said that the committee scrutiny on House resolutions relating to motions, reports, and enacted acts. The committee wrote to various departments on different dates seeking an update of the following House resolutions under the following categories. 1, that is air motions. A resolution that the county government sets aside fund to equip Matu Level 4 Hospital with 1, a modern ICU with 4 to 5 bed capacity, 2, CT scan, 3, installation of oxygen plant and piping be done to the ICU, maternity, pediatric ward, medical wards, and orthopedic departments. 4, modern casualty wing with 15 to 20 modern beds. 5, completion of the mortuary. B, resolution that the county government considered initiating Kazi Mtaani program by engaging the public in maintenance of feeder roads within the supervisions of the sub-county engineers, resident sub-county engineers. C, resolution on confinement of Matu, Kadhiani, Masii, Mwala, and Masinga towns in 2 municipalities. D, resolutions that the county executive committee member of the Department of Water, Irrigation, Environment, and Climate Change formulates and forwards for consideration by the county assembly regulations to operationalize the Machakos County Water and Sanitation Act of 2014 with a view of creating borehole management committees to manage the existing public boreholes in the county. Reports. Report of the Committee on Delegated County Legislation is on approval of the Machakos County Emergency Fund regulations. 6, in response, various departments, Madam Speaker, in response, various departments submitted the status of implementation to the committee as follows. Implementation status of various House resolutions relating to the motion. Regarding the modern ICU, the issue at Matu. The motion was proposed by Honorable Julius Dama and was passed by the House on 16th November 2022. The resolutions were due for implementation by 15th January of 2023, And by the expiry of the 60 days as provided by the standing orders, the Department of Medical Services had done nothing in terms of implementation, Madam Speaker. Based on the aforementioned, the committee invited the Chief Officer on 25th July of 2023 to shed light on the above House resolutions in relation to the implementation status of ICT, ICU, CT scan machine, oxygen plant, casualty and mortuary in Matu level 4 during the said sitting. The mover of the motion was present, that is Honorable Judas Nawa, who is the minority leader and MCA for Matu. The Chief Officer submitted that the department had no budget for such programs since the House resolutions was passed in between the financial year. He further promised that the department will factor House resolutions in the subsequent year's budget and that by the end of September 2023, implementation will have taken place. Implementation status. The tender relating to the construction of CT scan block where the CT scan machine will be installed and the modern casualty wing has already been awarded, and that the Department of Medical Services has already done the piping in maternity ward, pediatric ward, and medical ward in preparation to installation of the oxygen plant. Madam Speaker, is that yesterday the Honorable Minority Leader confirmed that the following is already right now undertaken. It's already in place as said in the paper. Observation, the resolution is being implemented, and as I've said, implementation is already ongoing. Recommendations, the County Executive through Department of Medical Services should factor construction of a modern ICU with 4 to 5 bed capacity and completion of the mortuary in the financial year 2024-2025 in line with the above resolution. 3.2. Resolution that the county government considers initiating Kazi Mtaani program by engaging the public in maintenance of feeder roads with the supervision of the resident sub-county engineers. The motion was, Honorable Speaker, the motion was proposed by Honorable Francis Kitaka and was approved by the House on 22nd November 2022, and the resolution was due for implementation by 23rd January 2023. By expiry of 60 days, the Department of Transport had done nothing in terms of implementation. The committee wrote to the Department of Transport on 12th June 2023, requesting to be provided with information and documentation relating to the implementation status of the Kazi Mtaani program. The request was not responded to, and the committee wrote again on 27th June of 2023, reminding the CCM to forward the earliest sought information. 15. On 3rd July of 2023, the committee met the CCM Transport, and during the said sitting, the mover of the motion, which Honorable Kitaka MCA and Alani Ward was present. The CCM further submitted that the implementation of Kazi Mtaani program requires a policy which should guide when implementing the stated House resolutions. He also stated that the said policy should be drafted by the County Assembly legal team. The committee was of contrary opinion, Madam Speaker, given that Article 183 sub-order 2 of the Constitution mandates the County Executive Committee to prepare legislations for considerations by the County Assembly. The implementation status on the same. Going by the proposal made by the CCM Transport, the committee requested the CCM to submit such proposal to the Office of the Clerk by 11th of July 2023. The submitted proposal was to serve as an advisory. Observations. The resolution is not implemented due to lack of policy. Recommendations, Madam Speaker. Aware that at the time of adopting this report, the County Executive had not submitted the policy to implement the Kazi Mtaani program, the committee recommends that the Department of Transport, Roads and Public Works formulates the Kazi Mtaani policy to aid in implementation of resolution and forward the same to the County Assembly for consideration and approval. Madam Speaker, you'll note that we have had a serious challenge in this because, one, the CECM for this department whom we were dealing with then was transferred to the Department of Lands, Energy and Municipalities, and it has been a big challenge because when the CCM in place who came, she said that she's not privy to the same, but our clerks departments tasked her to draft the full policy. So it's up to date. We are still to get that communication, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, resolution that the County Executive Committee fast tracks in the conferment of Matu, Kadhiani, Masii, Mwala, and Amasinga town to municipalities. The motion was proposed by Honorable Judas Nawa and was approved by the House on 19th October 2022. And the resolution was due for implementation on the 20th December of 2022. The committee wrote to the Chief Officer Urban Planning on 8th May 2023 requesting to be provided with information on the implementation status of the above stated resolutions. Madam Speaker, on the 15th of May 2023, the committee met the Chief Officer who informed the committee that the department had already submitted the proposal on confinement of Matu, Kadhiani, Masii, Mwala, and Masinga towns to municipalities to the cabinet for approval. Implementation status. In exercise of powers conferred by Section 8, Suborder 3 and 9 of the Urban Areas and Cities Amendment Acts of 2019, the Governor of Machakos appointed an ad hoc committee to consider the recommendation by Machakos County Executive Committee in order to grant municipality status to Matu Oyata Town, Kadhiani Mitatboni Town, Masii, Mwala Town, and Masinga Ekalakala, Kiva Town through a Gazette Notice number 5178 of 3rd May 2024. There is observations. Madam Speaker, the resolution is partially implemented. Recommendation, the County Executive through the Department of Lands to move the speed to ensure the resolution is fully implemented. So, Madam Speaker, just for explanation, as you can see, the Honorable Kisila from Mwala confirmed, who is the chairperson devolved unit, confirmed that the above issue has been handled. The gazettement has already been done, so we are just waiting the normal procedure as per the Constitution so that they can confirm to the Governor, and then the conferment will be done within the Constitution, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, resolutions that the County Executive Committee member of the Department of Water, Irrigation, Environment and Climate Change formulates and forwards to consideration by the County Assembly regulations to operationalize the Machakos County Water and Sanitation Acts of 2014 with a view of creating borehole management committees to manage the existing public boreholes within the county. Madam Speaker, the motion was proposed by Honorable Felix Ngui, representing Katangi Ward, approved by the House on the 4th of April 2023, and the resolution was due for implementation by 5th of June of 2023. Informed the above resolution and in line with the Standing Order 188 Suborder 2B, which provides that the committee shall scrutinize all resolutions of the County Assembly and examine whether or not legislation passed by the Assembly has been operationalized, and where operationalized the extent to which operationalization has taken place within the minimum time necessary. The committee resolved to be provided with the information relating to the implementation status of all enacted laws. That is starting from the first Assembly, the second Assembly, and to the third Assembly. Madam Speaker, on the 26th of February 2024, the committee wrote to the Department of Agriculture via a letter as stipulated there, and the committee wanted to know the status, the operationalization of 1. Machakos County Cooperative Societies Act of 2015, 2. Machakos County Agricultural Development Fund Act of 2014, 3. Machakos County Cooperative Enterprise Development Fund of 2021, and 4. Machakos County Abattoirs Act of 2022. The Department of Agriculture, through a letter reference as date there on 8th of April, submitted as follows. Implementation status of Machakos County Agricultural Development Fund Act 2014. That the Department of Agriculture and Food Security, Madam Speaker, accept and appreciate the criticalness and importance of this instrument of legislation. However, the department would be glad if provisions are made for the review and amendments of certain sections of the Act in order to align them to the present legislative environment and realities as concerns with financial management in devolved units. They stated that, Madam Speaker, some of the considerations in the proposed review and amendments would include the management of conditional grants within the department, and that the department, as however in anticipation of the realities of implementing the Act, began exploring on the requisite budget and human resource needs required to operationalize the fund. Observations. As up to date, the Act is not implemented, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, recommendations. The Sectoral Committee on Agriculture to make follow-up with the Department of Agriculture and ensure that the proposed amendments are processed and subsequent passing of the required regulations to operationalize the Act. Madam Speaker, you realize that the Committee of Implementation cannot start seeking for implementation of the same Act without the Committee of Agriculture going through the amended Act. They subject it to public participation, and then they bring to this House for approval. It is at that point in time that, Madam Speaker, once that is done, then the implementation started can be forwarded to the Committee on Implementation for it to be pursued, to be operationalized. So that's why we are saying now, because the department proposed that it has to be amended first, and then that it has to be taken back to the committee. Recommendations. I've read the recommendation. Implementation, Madam Speaker, on the implementation of Machakos County Cooperative Society Act of 2015. Yeah. The department informed the committee that the Machakos County Cooperative Society Act of 2015 preceded the development of the National Cooperative Societies Amendment Act of 2020, which has undergone a lot of revolution. In line with the above, the CCM informed the committee that the department intends to propose a review and initiate an amendment to the Machakos Cooperative Societies Act. 2015 in order to harmonize it with the National Cooperative Society's instruments and ideals. The CCM also stated that since the approved budget for the financial year 2023-2024 had not captured the budget for the development of the regulations, the department has factored the same in the second supplementary budget, which was passed recently, Madam Speaker. Observations. The Act is still not implemented, Madam Speaker. Recommendations. The Sectoral Committee on Agriculture to make a follow-up with the Department of Agriculture and ensure that the proposed amendments are processed and subsequent passing of the required regulations to operationalize the Act. Madam Speaker, on the implementation status of the Machakos County Cooperative Enterprise Development Act of 2021. Madam Speaker, the committee was informed that the County Attorney Office had already been engaged on the development of regulations relating to the Act. The department requested for a period of 21 days to establish the position of the Machakos County Cooperative Enterprise Development Act of 2021. Observations. The department has developed a draft regulations to operationalize the Act. Recommendations. Select committee on delegated county legislation to make a follow-up with the Department of Agriculture and ensure that stated regulations are approved by the House to operationalize the Act. Madam Speaker, you will find that the department has already done the proposed regulations, but now they cannot be forwarded to the Committee on Implementations unless they are taken to the Committee on Delegated Legislation and follow the due process of the law so that they can be brought to the House for approval, then committed to the Committee on Implementation so that we can see the implementation status. So that's why we have given that recommendation. Madam Speaker, on the implementation of Machakos County Abattoirs Act of 2022, the committee was informed that the department has finalized on drafting of the proposed Machakos County Abattoirs regulations, and the said draft awaits publication scrutiny with relevant stakeholders, including the relevant county assembly committees. Madam Speaker, observations. The department has developed a draft of regulations to operationalize the Act. Recommendations. Madam Speaker, the Select Committee on Delegated County Legislation to make a follow-up with the Department of Agriculture and ensure that the stated regulations are approved by the House to operationalize the Act. As related to the enacted acts under the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Madam Speaker, the committee wrote to the CCM via a letter reference that on the 26th of February 2024, requested to be provided with information on implementation status of the following acts. 1. Machakos County Water and Sanitation Act of 2014, Machakos County Sand Harvesting Amendment Act of 2022, Machakos County Electronic Waste Management Act of 2015, Machakos County Climate Change Amendment Act of 2022, and Machakos County Environment Management Act of 2022. Madam Speaker, in response to the above request, the department forwarded copies of the above stated acts, and it was silent on the implementation status of the same. Madam Speaker, as related to the enacted acts under the Department of Trade, Madam Speaker, just before I proceed to the Department of Trade, we wrote these letters to the Department of Water and Environment and Natural Resources several times, Madam Speaker, and up to date, as at the time we were publishing this report, the department had not responded to us on the implementation status. So, Madam Speaker, now we had to bring this report so that we can task the Committee on Environment to pursue the same with the Department of Environment so that we can see to what extent are they holding these acts to implement it. At that point in time, the Committee on Implementation now will follow because they have not stated that they will not implement, neither have they not stated that they will implement. So it is still waiting unless another response is given. But Madam Speaker, as related to the enacted acts and the Department of Trade, the committee wrote to the CCM requesting to be provided with information on implementation status of the following acts. 1. The Machakos County Joint Licensing Act of 2014, the Machakos County Government and Administrative Structures Act of 2015, the Machakos County Public Market and Stalls Act of 2016, Machakos County World Development Fund Amendment Act of 2016, and the Machakos County Southeastern Kenya Economic Bloc Act of 2022. Up to date, Madam Speaker, no response was received in relation to the above listed acts. Madam Speaker, following the submissions by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, which were non-responsive, and for the lack of response by the Department of Trade, the committee resolved to seek the information related to the implementation status of all enacted acts through the Office of the County Secretary. The said information was sought through a letter that reference dated on 3rd of April 2024. Madam Speaker, on the 11th of April 2024, the Department of Social Welfare and Sports submitted their responses relating to the implementation status of the following acts under their department via the letter that as follows. On the implementation status of Machakos County persons with
Before you proceed, Honorable Maitha.
Yes.
This number 46 concerning Machakos County Southeastern Kenya Economic Bloc Act 2022.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
What did you say you are done?
There's a response to that effect.
Oh, there is?
Yes, there's a response to that effect.
Okay. Because why I'm saying that is because we are already using that act.
There's a response to that effect.
Yes.
Because the county secretary wrote a letter.
Yes.
And I will respond to that
Okay.
as I proceed.
Okay. All right. Proceed.
Yes, 3.7. Implementation of Machakos County Person with Disabilities Act from the Department of Social Welfare. The CCM submitted that the department has implemented the act since 2017 through various activities relating to the persons with disabilities through yearly work plans. The CCM added that the department has prepared a draft regulation to operationalize the stated act. Observations. The act is partially implemented. Recommendations, Madam Speaker. The Committee on Delegated Legislation to liaise with the department and ensure that the stated regulations is approved to operationalize the act. 3.8. Madam Speaker, on the implementation status of Machakos County Youth Empowerment Act of 2022, the department submitted that the implementation is already in place through the following activities. Youth in Sports, that is the Governor's Cup Awards. 2, Machakos Youth Service, which is already ongoing. 3, the Machakos Youth Empowerment Act amended on 2024, which is already ongoing. And the Youth Involvement in Climate Change. Observation, implementation is on the same is ongoing. Recommendations. The Sectoral Committee on Gender, Youth and Sports to liaise with the department to ensure that the proposed amendments are processed and approved in order to pave way for the drafting of the regulations to fully operationalize the act. Madam Speaker, on the implementation of the Machakos County Senior Citizens Act of 2022, the department submitted that the act is implemented through the department's work plan under care and protection of the needy and elderly persons. The stated persons are supported through provisions of food serves and home visits. Observation. Madam Speaker, the department is here to forward regulations to implement the aforementioned act. Recommendations. The department to forward the subsidiary legislation in line with the Machakos County Senior Citizens Act of 2022. The Committee on Implementation wish to notify the House that the following departments are yet to provide requested information as relates to the enacted laws, that the committee will be tabling another report on the implementation status of the enacted as immediately it receives their responses. The said departments are: 1, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, relating to the Machakos County Water and Sanitation Act of 2014. 2, Machakos County Sand Harvesting Amendment Act of 2022. 3, Machakos County Electronic Waste Management Act of 2015, as stated on those acts because the members have the report. Going to page 17, those are the Department of Education and Social Services, Department of Health and Emergency Services, Department of Justice and Legal Affairs, and to be prudent enough so that I can read them. Department of Transport, Roads and Public Works, that's the Machakos County Commuter Vehicles Act of 2015, Machakos County Designated Parking Places Act of 2016, the Machakos County Non-Motorized Vehicles Act of 2016. On the Department of Trade, Economic and Planning and Industrialization, we have the Machakos County Transit License Act of 2014, the Machakos County Government Administrative Structures Act of 2015, Machakos County Public Market and Source Act of 2016, Machakos County World Development Fund Amendment Act of 2016, Machakos County Southeastern Kenya Economic Bloc Act of 2022, which was not responded to, and there is a response to that effect. Then we have the Department of Education and Social Services. We have the Machakos County Vocational Training Centers Act of 2021. Then we have the Department of Health and Emergency Services. That is under the Machakos County HIV and AIDS Management Act of 2015. The Machakos County Health Services Act of 2021, which is undergoing amendment. We have the Machakos County Fire and Rescue Services Bill of 2023. In the Department of Justice and Legal Affairs, Madam Speaker, we have the Machakos County Public Participation Act of 2014, the Machakos County Flags and Other Symbols Act of 2015. Then we have the Department of Labor and Public Services and ICT. which as the Machakos County Pension Scheme Act of 2022. We have the Department of Finance and Revenue Collection. That is the Machakos County Rating Act of 2014, the Machakos County Tax Waivers Administration Act of 2022, which is already in place, Madam Speaker, and which a motion to that effect was tabled here and passed. Then we have the Machakos County Revenue Administration Act of 2015. Then under Department of Culture and Tourism, we have the Machakos County Liquor Licensing Act of 2014, the Machakos County Cultural Heritage Act of 2022. Madam Speaker, on the implementation status of House resolutions relating to the reports. Resolution 3, the House approves the County Delegated County Legislation Committee report on Machakos County Emergency Fund regulations. The committee wrote to the CCM Finance on 23rd of February 2023, on 26th February 2024, and again on 26th March 2024 to requesting for implementation status of the Machakos County Emergency Fund regulations under the following areas. 1, the established Machakos County Emergency Committee in line with Regulation 6. 2, establish the county disaster management plan in line with Regulation 10 sub-order 1. And 3, expenditure statements relating to the fund and the account balance as at 31st December 2023. In its response, the CCM submitted the following. I want to do, there's some correction. It is 26 February 2023 and again on 26th March 2023, not 2024. That's a typo error. On the establishment, Madam Speaker, of the Machakos County Emergency Fund, the CCM stated that according to Regulation 6, the chairperson is to be appointed by the governor, the vice chairperson is the CCM Finance, and the secretary will be the chief officer Finance. He also stated that the following members and the chairperson were appointed and gazetted on 12th September 2023. 1, Boniface Mutunga Kalele, who is the chairperson. Then we have Violet Shaba Mukwisu, Boniface Kawea Kisilu, and Evelyn Wekesa, who are members. Madam Speaker, the CCM further stated that the Machakos County Emergency Fund Committee is properly in place, having been gazetted on 12th September 2023. Madam Speaker, on the establishment of County Disaster Management Plan in line with Regulations 10 sub-order 1 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, the CCM stated that the County Disaster Management Plan has been developed in line with Regulations 10 of sub-order 1 of the Public Finance Management Act of the Machakos County Emergency Fund Regulations 2021, and that the plan was approved by the Machakos County Emergency Committee on 28th March of 2023. Yes, 2024, that is. He further stated that the plan is currently before the Machakos County Executive Committee, and that upon consideration and approval by the Machakos County Executive Committee, the County Disaster Management Plan will be forwarded to the Machakos County Assembly for its necessary action under Regulation 10 sub-order 2 of the Public Finance Management Act, on Machakos County Emergency Fund Act Regulations of 2021. Madam Speaker, on the expenditure statements relating to the fund and account balance as at 31st December 2023, the CCM submitted that as at 31st December 2023, there was no expenditure on the Machakos County Emergency Fund, and there is still no expenditure on the Machakos Emergency Fund to date. Reason being, despite the emergency committee being in place, the county disaster management plan is yet to be in place before any expenditure can be incurred on the emergency fund. Madam Speaker, the CCM further stated that in the meeting on the 31st October of 2023, the Machakos County Committee approved the opening of an operations account of the emergency fund at a commercial bank. Implementation status. The resolution has been partially implemented, Madam Speaker. However, the committee noted that the implementation process has been very slow. Recommendations. Madam Speaker, the CCM Finance should ensure that the County Disaster Management Plan is approved by the Assembly as soon as possible in order to operationalize the regulations fully. Madam Speaker, just to expound on this, you realize that, Madam Speaker, when we did our 2023-24 financial year budget, we allocated the Department of Revenue Collection under the Finance Department on emergency services, 80 million shillings. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, on the first supplementary budget, that we supplemented about 30 million shillings. So the emergency fund remained with about 50 million shillings. On the second supplementary budget, Madam Speaker, we went ahead and supplemented the same a total amount of 40 million shillings. So as at now, Madam Speaker, the amount of money that is remaining in the county emergency fund kitty is only 10 million shillings, Madam Speaker. Considering the current rainfall effects, Madam Speaker, 10 million shillings is too little, way too little to fund the current status. So our recommendation is that the resolution has been partially implemented. However, the committee noted that the implementation is very slow, Madam Speaker. Right now, even the amount of money that is in the account, the county emergency fund kit is too little to implement. So, Madam Speaker, we recommend that in future, the CCM finance should not interfere with the emergency fund kitty. Yes. Whatsoever. If it's not incurred, any expenditure is not incurred at the end of the year, Madam Speaker, we should hold the account as it is, and if need be, even increase, because we might not know what we expect in the next financial year, like exactly what has happened, Madam Speaker. Our recommendations is that the CC Finance should ensure that the county disaster management plan is approved by the Assembly as soon as possible in order to operationalize the regulations fully. Committee observations.
You recall this one was committed yesterday? Do you recall that, is that so?
Yesterday, Madam Speaker, we spoke about the issue of roads.
It was not?
It was not about the emergency fund.
I think it was. Huh? The plan itself was committed to the board yesterday and committed to the committee concerned.
Thank you.
Decentralized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your direction.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that observation. Committee observations, Madam Speaker. During its sitting held on 13 May, the committee made the following observations. Lack of legal framework to guide the government policies hampers the efficient implementation and operationalization of the policies. 2, inadequate budgetary allocations in the implementation of House resolutions. 3, late and incomplete responses by departments, which usually leads to back and forth communication with the committee, thus delaying reporting by the committee to the House. 4, most of the motions and legislations introduced in the House are not subjected to a thorough scrutiny on the viability of their implementation. This makes the House to pass resolutions that are not in line with the existing government's agenda and midterm policies. 5, some resolutions of the House are not smart, that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, Madam Speaker. This poses a problem on their implementation. And that one, Madam Speaker, I will speak, for example, I will talk about like the MACHAKOS County Agricultural Fund. It has been quite difficult because we have a similar fund that is already in existence. If you go to MACHAKOS near our city stadium, there is the Agricultural Development Fund. So by introducing, when that act was brought in place and adopted, it was somehow contradicting the Agricultural Development Fund because the functions and the operations were more or less the same. So its implementation was quite difficult. 2, Madam Speaker, there is the Senior Citizens Act, which was recommending that the county government of Machakos be giving some monthly stipends to the elderly, which also contradicts the cash transfer program which is being undertaken by the national government. Because if you do that, Madam Speaker, it will be a double payment, which will be questionable by the control of budget. So that's why we are recommending that, Madam Speaker, before we go ahead and pass some of these acts, we need to do proper and thorough scrutiny of the same so that it does not contradict existing laws that are being implemented by the national government. The other thing that, Madam Speaker, we noted is that frequent transfers in the county executive have hindered committees' business, especially where the chief officer or the CCM is transferred while a matter is not concluded. Madam Speaker, you'll note that, for example, when we started the issue of the municipalities, we had the CCM, Mr. Kilonzo, Honorable Kilonzo, who was later transferred from that department, together with all the chief officers who were handling this matter. It has been quite difficult, Madam Speaker, to pursue the same because we had now to go back again and revisit the same. But fortunately, we got the CCM, Mheshimiwa Nganga, and who has been very steadfast and very speedy to implement the same. And that's where, at the moment, we can say that the gazettement of the required board has already been put in place. So that has really, really hindered. In the Department of Roads, we started like the issue of Kazim Turning Program, Madam Speaker. We started with Mheshimiwa Nganga. In the process, And in the process of trying to seek for the regulations, then we were hampered by the East transfer to the Department of Lands. So now we had to wait again for a new CEC who came in place. And when we wrote a letter to seek clarity on the same, then she said that she had no information about it. So we had to start again from zero. So, and currently the person who was in a position to assist us was the chief officer in that department. He has now been transferred from the Department of Roads to the Department of Health Services, whereby, Madam Speaker, now we have to revisit the issue again from zero. So the issues of transfers have been really a serious setback to the implementation status of the various House resolutions in this committee. Our committee recommendations, Madam Speaker. Having considered all the submissions made by the various departments in relation to the implementation status of the House resolution, the Committee on Implementation recommends as follows. 1, the Assembly should enhance its scrutiny of laws, resolutions, and motions to ensure that the resolutions passed are implementable. 2, the County Executive Committee members under Departments of Water, Irrigation, Environment and Climate Change, Roads, Transport and Public Works, Trade, Industry, Tourism and Innovation, Education, Health and Emergency Services, Office of the County Attorney, Devolution and Culture and Tourism should adhere to the sections of the enacted laws under their respective departments, which requires them to formulate regulations and forward the same to the County Assembly for approval to operationalize them. Madam Speaker, to be specific on this, there is an evasive nature in most of the departments. Whenever we seek them to bring regulation, to operationalize certain acts, all the acts that have been passed, they have been quite evasive on the same, saying that regulations should emanate from the Assembly. We sought legal advisory from the legal department of the Assembly, and it was very clear that it is the executive who is supposed to emanate with the regulations then brought here to the County Assembly for approval. Reason being, we cannot be the manufacturer, and at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, we be the consumer. They must manufacture, then we come and consume, and then they can see results. So now we already wrote a letter to them, and the legal department in this assembly wrote a letter to them that they're supposed to formulate these regulations, yes, bring them to the Committee on Delegated Legislation so that they can be approved by this House and then brought forward to the Committee on Implementation to pursue their implementation. 3, the House by Extension committees should ensure that all resolutions passed are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound to ensure that they are implemented and for effective follow-up of the same. 4, the county executive should make sure that the officers are going concern in case of any rearrangements and ensure that adjustment does not hinder the normal operations of the county. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I now want to go to the final part, acknowledgements. Madam Speaker, I wish to acknowledge the Office of the Speaker for the support that you gave us through the Office of the Clerk, and want to thank the honorable members of the committee for their commitment to ensure this report is done, and tell the honorable members that it is an elaborate report. That's why it has taken that long, because we are covering all the resolutions of the House, because we did not intend to be bringing here a single report for every resolution, every commitment that has been given to the Committee on Implementation. That's why you have seen that, honorable members, we have covered a lot to elaborate and covered it all in one so that we save the honorable members' time. So we appreciate, Madam Speaker, for their support and wish to commit that the Committee on Implementation is keen and ready to ensure that all the resolutions that have been passed in this assembly are listened to, implemented, and to the extent we are not implemented, seek further guidance by this assembly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maitha. Very comprehensive report and very much well articulated. Mine is just to say that having listened to this report, very key points come out, and one of them is the regulations. The regulations, there is no act of parliament can be operationalized without the regulations. So you find that even when we make these laws and the bills are passed and enacted, we cannot move without the regulations, because a lot of it, a lot of operationalization, or the way to progress with the act is in the regulations. When it is lacking, then that particular act of parliament is as useless as it were. So that is one item I just want you members, as you debate this matter, just know that is an hindrance to progress. Now, may I invite now members to debate on this matter. Honorable Paul Wambua.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance. My name is Paul Wambua. I represent the people of Kibaoni Ward. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate the Chair and his members for that comprehensive report. We know where we sit. We have all heard where we are. Madam Speaker, my point is drawn from the issue of Kazim Tani, which I remember vividly was brought to this assembly by my Honorable Chair, Honorable Kitaka, and we passed that we have our people do the roads, the feeder roads, which would be less costly and in line with the governor's call for pesa mfukoni. Madam Speaker, I would urge the committee to follow up the operationalization of that resolution of this House to enable us, especially this time when the roads have been very badly damaged by the just ended rains. We operationalize. We have our roads done by our own people, who will also get some pesa mfukoni. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. More contributions? Honorable Ndeti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Congratulations, Mheshimiwa Maitha and your committee for a lengthy report. Although you are too fast, some of us were not able to follow up. You are too fast in your reading. I only took note of a recommendation that I'm going to read again. The recommendation, committee recommendations number 3. The House and by extension committees should ensure all resolutions passed are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound, to ensure they are implemented and for effective follow-up of the same. I just wanted to find out whether, as a House, we have been working so hard and passing resolutions that cannot even be implemented, because that recommendation exactly states that. As members, honorable members, we need to look at the resolutions we are passing in this House, because then there is no need of giving garbage in, then we get garbage out, because the executive will never implement. So we need to find out what it is that we are not doing right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Ndeti. Honorable Lloyd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to support the report of this committee, which I have a member. I'd like to read an observation, number 3, that 50, number 3. Late and incomplete responses by department usually leads to back and forth communication with the committee, thus delaying reporting by the committee to the House. Madam Speaker, this has been too prevalent in many committees. You realize that this report by the implementation committee and covered a lot. We would have done within a shorter time if the department we were writing to give a response, they were giving within the period we enhanced. It has been really a hard work dealing with this department. We don't know whether but we've been the formation of the new government or what, but really it's something that is affecting all committees, because in a number of committees we are having such an issue where we have tried to achieve profits of that department 3 times. It should be noted to the executive, a smooth working relationship with the assembly will help also to be able to deliver the services to the people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lloyd. Do we have more contributions? Honorable Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When I look at the observation number 6, it talks of frequent transfers of chief officers and CCM. First of all, before I go to that, I want to thank the chair and the committee for a job well done. If you look at observation number 6, I think no CCM or chief officer worth their office should give an excuse that I have been transferred here lately. That is why I'm not able to proceed. Because offices, the communication is very formal, and I can guess that every other paperwork is in a file. So even if you are transferred how many times, you should be able to pick from where your colleague was. And of course, there are handover notes. And if there's an issue for an assembly, the one coming in, going out, should be able to explain to the one coming in, there's this matter in the assembly, and also explain the stage. So maybe they're taking it as an excuse. And Mr. Chairman, through the Speaker, please do not accept. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Majority, for that observation. Honestly, we all know that offices of government are not, there can never be a vacuum in an office of government. Anytime somebody, an officer is transferred to another department, they don't move with the documentation, they don't move with, they leave them there for the other person to come and continue. So continuation is ongoing all the time. So that shouldn't be an excuse, and members, let's not accept such excuses. Honorable Kitaka, and you're highly welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am Francis Kitaka, representing Dalani Ward. I would want to say something about the report, and basing on the Kazi Mtaani program that we passed here. We've been, the matters raised on matters of regulation is something that is of big concern to this House. However, we also have other resolutions that have been made in this House, and it is worth following them. I want to congratulate the Honorable Chair, Implementation Committee, and your team for the good work that you've done to bring us to light, to understand so far what has been done and the hindrances that you are encountering as a committee. Madam Speaker, we've just, we are coming out of an havoc of rains, and our roads are in pathetic state. How I wish if the regulations were in place, we would have first used our young men and women to at least give some relief to our roads, and also at least earn something. So it's important that at least we follow up, as you have said, as you've directed, that the executive member concerned in the respective departments should take these matters serious, so that at least we can have regulations that can be can aid in operationalization of these resolutions. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kitaka. I've also heard that there was a back and forth of who should be the origin of these regulations. There are procedures. We know that it is the executive to bring us a draft. We look at it and advise and also approve it. So there should never be back and forth. Honorable Maida, there was no need of back and forth. We know who is supposed to do the regulations, bring them to us, have them look at them, and then approve them. And then we operationalize these acts. We cannot be making laws here only to keep them in the shelves, honorable members. Thank you, honorable members. I now May I now invite the mover of the motion to come and reply?
Thank you, honorable members and Madam Speaker, and quite apologetic to the members for the long report. The supersonic speed has been alluded by Mheshimiwa Ellen, was meant to save members, because if I had gone on a slower speed, then I would still be reading the report, so I apologize for that. Thank you, members, for the observations you have made. And Madam Speaker, the honorable members of the Implementation Committee who are seated here, Mercy, Lloyd, my vice chair is not here. We have Mheshimiwa, quite a number of members are not here. Madam Speaker, I can tell you, these members can attest what we have gone through. It is not easy. And Honorable Kitaka can attest to this. When we invited him on the Kazi Mtahani program, he saw how we fought so hard with the CCM, then in the Department of Roads, Mheshimiwa Nathan Nganga, on the regulations. Up to some point, and he can attest to this house, he even considered that the motion is as good as dead. But I told him, no, we have to proceed. So there's this back and forth issue, Madam Speaker. And I would wish we as an house, through the office of the majority leader, he speaks with the governor, because our intention is only to serve the residents of Machakos. We have no ill will at all. So any resolutions passed by this assembly, Madam Speaker, are meant, specifically made, to help the people of Machakos. Like, for example, the motion brought by Honorable Kitaka. And I thank the Honorable Mheshimiwa Kavyu from Chumvi, Kinani Ward. He can attest, we even gave a proposal to the governor that because the program had already been, the motion had been proposed by Honorable Kitaka, we come with a motion, with a project that was called Boresha Mtaa na Mama. And actually, I thank God, because recently I received a call from various departments being asked to provide at least 5 youths, which were way too low, who will be accorded that opportunity to practice the same. So, Madam Speaker, we wish that if it can be accorded soonest action, so that the resolution that was passed, as Honorable Donald said, regarding the statement that was hosted yesterday, if those youths now can be used immediately, to Boresha Mtaa na Mama. That includes opening clogged systems, a drainage system. That includes repairing our roads. We are going to achieve the Pesa Mfukoni the slogan for our county government. So, all in all, honorable members, I just want to say, on the issue that Ellen has said regarding the smart observations, honorable members, there is no need we pass a law here that will not be implemented. And I've given 2 examples. The disabilities, the act relating to the odds and the aged, is already in place in the national government. The Agricultural Development Act is already in the national government. So once we do a duplication of the same in the county government, then it contradicts the national existing laws. So what I would like and request of the honorable members here is that whenever an act comes in this assembly, thorough scrutiny and advisory needs to be done, and especially from our legal department, such that if we pass any act, we are sure even the county government will be able to fund that act, including regulations, so that it can bring resource and fruits to the residents of Machakos. So thank you, honorable members. I want to thank you all for the participation and wish to commit that the committee is more than willing to implement all the resolutions that the House Assembly, the Assembly is going to pass. And where hindrances will come forth, then we are going to seek the assistance from the leadership and from the office of the Speaker, and to the worst event, the assistance of this Assembly to summon, and wish not to summon any, but we are sure they are going to respond to all the queries and requirements that the committee will demand for them for ease and effective delivery of services to the people of Machakos County. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Bemba. Very, very important. I now put the question that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Implementation on the implementation status of Assembly resolutions for the County Executive as laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 14th May 2024. As many are of the opinion say ayes. As many are of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, alteration of the calendar and adjournment of the House.
May I invite Honorable Nicholas Nzioka, Leader of Majority, to come forward and move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to move the motion that, notwithstanding the resolutions of the Assembly made on the 20th February 2024, that is approval of Assembly calendar, and 21st February 2024, that is alteration of the calendar, and pursuant to Standing Order number 25, Sub-Order 4, the Assembly resolves that A, the calendar, that is regular sessions, for the third session of the third Assembly be altered to adjourn today, Wednesday, 15th May, and resume its regular sitting on Tuesday, 18th June 2024, and that the Assembly calendar, that is the regular sessions, for the third session be altered accordingly. B, all documents received by the Assembly during the short recess for tabling in the House be committed to the respective committees forthwith by the Honorable Speaker and reported to the House on the day the House next sits. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I call upon the Deputy Majority Leader to second.
Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I now propose the question that, notwithstanding the resolutions of the Assembly made on 20th February 2024, that is the approval of Assembly calendar, and 21st February 2024, that is alteration of the calendar, and pursuant to Standing Order number 25-4, the Assembly resolves 1, the calendar regular session for the third session of the third Assembly be altered to adjourn today, Wednesday, 15th May, and resume its regular sittings on Tuesday, 18th June 2024, and that the Assembly calendar, that is regular session for the third session, be altered accordingly. B, all documents received by the Assembly during the short recess for tabling in the House be committed to the respective committees forthwith by the Honorable Speaker and report to the House on the day the House next sits. I now invite the members to debate this motion. Members then debate this motion. Put the question. I now put the question that, notwithstanding the resolutions of the Assembly made on 20th February 2024, approval of Assembly calendar, and 21st February 2024, that is alteration of the calendar, and pursuant to Standing Order number 25, Sub-Order 4, the Assembly resolves that A, the calendar regular sessions for the third session of the third Assembly be altered to adjourn today, Wednesday, 15th May, and resume its regular sittings on Tuesday, 18th June 2024, and that the Assembly calendar regular sessions for the third session be altered accordingly. B, all documents received by the Assembly during the short recess for tabling in the House be committed to the respective committees forthwith by the Honorable Speaker and reported to the House on the day the House next sits. As many of the opinions say ayes, as many of the contrary opinions say nay, the ayes have it. The House adjourns to Tuesday, 18th June 2024 at 10:00 a.m. Thank you, members. See you then. God willing.